Yippee-ki-yay, retalkers! This is our Die Hard review. Welcome back to episode 2, where we review the best and some of the worst films, but always our favourite movies. I've got two fine-looking gentlemen with me tonight. Sorry, Badger couldn't make it tonight. We don't know where he is, to be honest. He's missing. He's gone AWOL. But anyway, Paul, how the hell are you doing, my friend? You weren't on episode number 1 covering Total Recall, but you have decided to join us for one of the best action movies of all time. How's it going?
Yeah, I'm doing good, man. Yeah, I'm gutted I missed that first one because I love Total Recall. Just couldn't make the time. But I'm here now. I'm here to talk about, like you said, one of the best action films ever made. We will get into the discussion if it's a Christmas film or not, most likely. But I'm doing well. Can't wait to talk some Die Hard.
Cool, man. Andy, how are you doing, my friend? We're here to talk about one of the best Christmas movies of all time.
Oh, absolutely, mate. Absolutely. I've got my Die Hard Christmas jumper on. Any excuse to wear it. Beer in hand because I've got a few days off work. So yeah, I bet I've kind of started / almost finished my Christmas shopping today. So I'm getting in that festive mood. So yeah, looking forward to talking about Die Hard. I could talk forever about Die Hard. I've seen it so many times, but like full disclosure, folks, for those who maybe are new to the channel, Ellis had actually put a poll out because there was a bit of a civil war going on behind the scenes at Total Retalkers about whether we should do Die Hard, the seminal classic, the original ultimate action Christmas movie, or its little brother, Die Hard 2, which is also a Christmas movie. I was in the camp of thinking it was a bit more interesting to do Die Hard 2 because it's not talked about as much. It's not as good a film, but it didn't win the vote ultimately. So I was a little bit peeved about it, but I've kind of got over myself and I've remembered how good Die Hard is and that it'll still be fun to talk about. So.
Yeah, there was a lot of votes on that poll. We left it in the people's hands to decide, but I think we all said that, you know, if we're still doing this by next Christmas, we could possibly do Die Hard 2. Because the question's out there, like, is even Die Hard the best Christmas movie in its own trilogy? Who knows? And yes, I did say trilogy. I am not counting Die Hard 4 or that other abomination. But anyway, guys, Die Hard. We'll get into our first category here, which is spitting the facts. It is directed by John McTiernan. I'm going to get that name wrong the whole stream, guys. I'll just apologize right now. Released 27th of November 1988. There was also some conflicting reports about when it was released. There was all sorts of numbers getting brought up for that when I was trying to research it. It is written by Jeb Stewart and Stephen E. D'Souza, who was like a big writer in the 80s for a few action movies of the time. It is based on the 1979 novel Nothing Lasts Forever by Roderick Thorpe. Produced by Lawrence Gordon and Joel Silver. We're all quite aware of Joel Silver. He's produced some of the best films of all time. It was distributed by 20th Century Fox. And the producers actually ended up hiring John McTiernan because of his work on the seminal classic that is Predator. Yes, this is the closest thing I got to anything Die Hard related. But it had a budget of in the region of 25 to 35 million, and it grossed about 141 million at the box office, making it one of the highest earning films of 1988. Just to give you a rough idea of what the top 10 highest earning movies were of 1988, we've got in 10th place Beetlejuice. I thought that would have been a little bit higher. Number 9, The Naked Gun. Number 8, Cocktail, starring our good buddy Tom Cruise. Number 7 is Die Hard. Number 6, Crocodile Dundee 2. Number 5, Twins. Number 4, Big. Number 3, Coming to America. Number 2, Who Framed Roger Rabbit. And number 1, our mate Tom Cruise again, Rain Man. So that just gives you a little bit of a rough idea of what we were dealing with in 1988. If I'm being honest, I didn't know that list before coming into this. I would have thought Die Hard would have actually been a bit higher up.
Yeah, so that.
I would never have thought that Rain Man was top the box office. That would just never happen now, a film like that.
No, fucking hell, Crocodile Dundee did more money than Die Hard.
Yeah,
nice.
Mind blowing. But Dundee, I can sort of understand a little bit because we're number 2 in a franchise there, and the first one was pretty popular. I think we've got, these like preconceived notions now, and with nostalgia and stuff like that. Die Hard is a humongous film. I would say it's probably bigger than most of these films on that list, maybe barring Beetlejuice, that's become like a massive cult phenomenon. But yeah, Die Hard, when it originally come out, it actually came out to mixed reviews. Not everyone was on board in 1988. It was later on that it became much more bigger and a much more cultural success, should we say. But yeah, Andy, just to go off your point there, Rain Man, number 1. Like, we're living in a different time in 1988 for a film like that to be number 1 at the box office.
I think Tom Cruise was on fire in the 80s, let's be honest. Like, every woman fancied Tom Cruise in the 80s.
Yeah, and he's got 2 films in the top 10 here as well, which is pretty mind-blowing, with obviously Cocktail coming in at number 8. But we are not here to talk about Cocktail or Rain Man. We are here to talk about Die Hard. So I'm just going to give you a little plot synopsis before we dive headfirst into this one. Just as Detective McClane lands in LA to spend Christmas with his wife, he learns about a hostage situation in an office building. Yes, the Nakatomi Plaza. Hans Gruber is the culprit, and McClane's wife is one of the hostages. Holy shit. Let's get into this film, guys. Guys, first question. Where do we all remember seeing this film? And let's just give our overall thoughts on this absolute behemoth of a film. Andy, where did you first see Die Hard, and what are your overall thoughts of the film?
100% on a VHS. I might have watched Die Hard more than any other film in my life, mate, to be honest. And that was because I don't know why I did this, but I had this routine in the early 90s. Every Saturday morning I would wake up. I've got a younger brother, and I'd wake up before him, he'd be in his bed, before mum and dad, and I'd go downstairs, and when most kids would put on their Saturday morning cartoons, I slapped on Die Hard. Like, genuinely, that's what I did every morning, like every Saturday morning, 7 because he didn't have many videos back then. My dad wasn't massively into collecting, so you had 1 or 2 videos, maybe like Star Wars, Die Hard, we had Die Hard 2 before we had Die Hard, I think. So that used to get played a lot. But when I did get Die Hard, I was like, oh, this is amazing. So I used to pretty much watch it. My dad would always come down near the end of it. So maybe like 9 in the morning, he'd come downstairs and be like, you watch this again, son? He's like, how many times have you seen this? And I'm like, oh, again, right, I'll watch that again. But at like 6 years old, I loved it. And see, to be honest, now I find it actually quite a hard film to sit down and properly watch. It's became more of a kind of
comfort film.
That's the word. I'm trying to find the word for it. It's more of I've seen it so often. I know every line before it happens. I know the musical cues. So when I put it on now, it's more just watch a scene, or it's in the background. At Christmas, I like to put it on Christmas Eve when I'm wrapping my presents. I'm not really watching it. I've just got it in the background. But yeah, amazing film. I mean, I'll talk about what I think of it in detail soon. But yeah, for me, it's woven into the fibre of who I am. It was part of my childhood. It shaped my interest in action films growing up. So amazing movie. One of my other favourite films is RoboCop, and then you've got, I think, Jan de Bont. That was the DP on both, wasn't he? Jan de Bont do RoboCop and
I think he did.
Is that right? Yeah, which I only thought about tonight. I was like, yeah, it's not a coincidence at all that those are 2 films I really like, and it's the same DP. So that was it, mate. VHS, and I've had it on DVD, and I've now got it in 4K. So big fan of Die Hard, and I'm literally wearing the jumper.
Ho ho ho! I have a machine.
Oh,
Paul.
No, I have a 4K Blu-ray.
Paul, Die Hard.
Yes.
Where did we first see it, and what are your overall thoughts of the movie?
Yeah, I think me and you, Andy, we're cut from the same cloth, man. I think we've discovered this already, man. Yeah, I was the same when I was a kid. I'd go down Saturday morning, instead of for bloody Saturday morning cartoons, I'm sticking on like Predator, Die Hard, Terminator 2, all that. And I'm talking like 7, 8 years old. I actually seen. There's a few films I can pinpoint the exact time I will seen it for the first time. Die Hard, I can't quite remember because the first Die Hard movie I actually seen for the first time was Die Hard with a Vengeance #3. I distinctly remember that being rented out from Blockbuster by my mum. I'm watching that, and that was sort of my introduction to John McClane, Die Hard. And then through that, sort of went back and tried to source 1 and 2. And I think they might have been on TV and they were recorded on VHS. I even think I might have seen Die Hard 2 before Die Hard 1, so I've watched them in reverse order. But I love this franchise, and I especially love this. Die Hard 3 for me is always going to hold a special place because it was the first one I watched, and it was the introduction to the franchise for me. But Die Hard is, without a shadow of a doubt, one of the best action movies ever made. People will say, and arguably right, it is the best action movie ever made. It's just fantastic. But to remember where I was when I first watched it, I can't quite pinpoint it. But once I did discover it at a young age, it become, like Andy said, a part of my identity up there with Predator, Terminator, all them 80s actions. It just sort of slotted in with all that and made me the film fan I am today. It is one of them films.
Yeah, man. I think for me, I can't pinpoint exactly where I watched this film first. It wasn't a VHS film that I had, like Andy. It was only a small VHS collection that I did have. I was more drawn towards the science fiction horror sort of films back then, and that's what I would have filled out my collection with. The likes of Predator, Terminator, stuff like that. But Die Hard for me, I think I'd definitely seen this on TV at some point. Like, I was big into reading the TV guides when I was little, because it would boldly say what films were on and stuff like that. It'd say movie in big black letters, and usually on Channel 5. That was always the good shit on there, man. But this is one of them films, right? Which Film 4 obviously had like an array of films that they played a lot back in the day. And I feel like Die Hard was fucking on Film 4 constantly. I'll just say this up front now. My if Badger was here, we've had arguments about this in the past when me and Badger first met. Die Hard with a Vengeance, that's the one for me. That's the cookie for me. I absolutely love Die Hard with a Vengeance. It's as I've got older, I've become appreciate Die Hard a lot more. But yeah, guys, I don't know what you think of this, but for me, Die Hard, when you're looking back at like 1988, right? So we get Lethal Weapon in 1987, and for me, Lethal Weapon is like this change of tide in the 80s when it comes to action movies. And I think only Die Hard in 1988 amplifies that. I think they get way more stylized. I think they get way more serious. I think they're looked at in a little bit of a different light than what the prior 80s were. And I think a main reason for that is, like in Lethal Weapon 87, we have two protagonists, and in Die Hard with John McClane, the protagonist, that do not look like superheroes.
Yeah.
Before that, our two main players were Arnold Schwarzenegger and Sylvester Stallone. And to me, what Die Hard represents is the everyman action movie. I said it in the group chat.
Absolutely.
For me, this is the blue collar, the working man, the working class action movie that a lot of men back then and a lot of men right now can relate to. Do you know what I mean? The receding hairline, the slightly out of shape body, the complete no fucks attitude that John McClane has.
You're describing me here, John McClane.
Absolutely, yeah. But for me, it was like we were almost dealing with like not only superhuman bodies when it came to Sly and Arnie, but they were like superheroes. Like, I just think we get to 1988 and we start looking at action movies a little bit differently before that. I just wanted to get your thoughts and opinions on that. Do you think there is a bit of a shift in the action movie around this time in the late 80s? Andy,
yeah,
you start.
sorry.
Oh, Paul, go for it. Paul,
on you go, Paul.
Yeah, I was literally as you were speaking then, Ellis. I was hoping you would say exactly what you said. To be fair, because I was thinking the exact same thing. It's like, yeah, it's before Die Hard, before Lethal Weapon. There was probably a couple here and there as well, but they're the two. Lethal Weapon, Die Hard. They're the big action films of the sort of mid to late 80s. But before that, like you said, Stallone, Arnie, superheroes, untouchable, unbeatable. They're going to win. Bulletproof. You know what I mean? Like you'll take every shot, nothing hurts them. They're them sort of characters in a lot of their movies. Not all of them, but a lot of them. But then when you come to, like you said, Lethal Weapon, and of course Die Hard, which we're talking about, it's like I said, it's the everyday man. It's John McClane. He's just a cop, as the tagline says, wrong place, wrong time. He's not bulletproof. He's got problems. He's got a marriage on the rocks. He's out of shape. He's receding hairline. He smokes. He is, like you said, just the everyday man. And with that, I can imagine back when it come out, not everyone is a copper, but a lot of people can relate to, you watch Arnie, you'll watch Sly, like you were sort of idolized, like, I wish I looked like that. Yeah, a lot of people probably watching Die Hard when it first came out went, I do look like that.
Yeah. No, back then when people weren't as reliant on sequels and franchises and stuff, and they were taking more risks and going with original IPs and all that, I think filmmakers and studios were more like attuned to that, to being able to sense that, right, we've had a lot of this now, and maybe we need to develop it and take it into the next direction, keep it current, and like they've maybe identified that trend of, right, we've got these action heroes, everybody loves it, but there is a bridge. They're hyper realistic people, like, and they've got unattainable hyper realistic figures as well. And then it was just what people needed, and then we got a trend of that. And then Die Hard created the Die Hard genre as well going forward. But yeah, Lethal Weapon's similar. It's different because it's formula wise, it's very much it's a buddy cop. It's a buddy cop genre, yeah. But it's similar elements in that, like Mel Gibson's like in ridiculous shape, to be fair, and he's a handsome bastard.
He's got a cracking haircut in that film.
No receding hairline there. So he's got amazing hair. Right, so he's borderline, other than being like fairly short, and like he's borderline, like he's still pretty much a Hollywood movie star. Do you know what I mean? But he's a bit more. He's real, but he's grounded by the fact that he's like got PTSD. His wife's been killed. Like there's fucking serious shit's happened to him. He's got all these kind of issues, so he's grounded that way. And then you've got Murtaugh, who's like he's the everyday guy that's got all the kind of family problems and all that, right? Even though he's built like a brick shit house as well, but that's beyond the point. But yeah, so Lethal Weapon definitely kind of started it, but really, yeah, John McClane as a character really drove it home and made it an important part of the film.
Yeah, man.
And it's funny because I was actually watching it today casually just to kind of brush up on it, and I forgot that he actually references Arnold Schwarzenegger in the film, which says it all. So that tells you that the writers were very deliberately, like, by mentioning Arnold. I think the line is something like, they've got enough plastic explosives to orbit Arnold Schwarzenegger.
They got missiles, automatic weapons, and enough plastic explosives to orbit Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Right, which is obviously a joke at the fact that, Arnie, ridiculous movie star, also by mentioning an action star like Arnie in the film, almost in a kind of fourth wall breaking way, it immediately lends realism to the film that it's set in. Does that make sense? Because the film is referencing a Hollywood actor, so it's making you forget that Bruce Willis is also a Hollywood actor, and it's more, we're dealing with John McClane here. So it's clever, and it's very much on the nose, and it's actually, it kind of self-commentates on the fact that it is trying to be different from the Arnie films, the Sly films, and all that. So yeah, I think it's what the everlasting appeal of Die Hard is, to be honest, is that it's like it's the everyday hero. Everybody roots for the underdog. He's the ultimate underdog.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was just thinking back to our Total Recall review episode, and we spoke a lot about Arnie's, Quaid's vulnerability in that film. but that's coming out in 1990. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Maybe that's took a few cues from this like rising underdog, vulnerable protagonist, because I don't think you get any more vulnerable than John McClane in this film. The man's got no shoes or socks, for God's sake. Do you know what I mean? Like, bloody hell. Like,
that was a brilliant idea. See, I was thinking that today.
What a choice.
Who came up?
What a choice.
I've never listened to the commentary on it. I think there is a McTiernan commentary on the Blu-ray, but I need to find out who's like how. I'd love to know how that came about. Was it always the case he was going to have no shoes? But whoever came up with it was so brilliant. It was just a great, like you say, physical way to disadvantage him and to make him proper vulnerable,
Maybe that's in the novel. I didn't brush up. I've never read the novel or anything like that, but that would be a key detail. I'm thinking like, oh, was that in the novel that he had no shoes on or whatnot? But guys, another thing that I just wanted to bring up while we're just in the meat of this film, this also sets off this like mental, like Die Hard ripoff film. This was like, how many films did this spawn where we have this one location sort of film, like, and this is another thing that I love about Die Hard, that it is set in one location, the Nakatomi Plaza, which interestingly, just want to throw it in there, was also the office building of 20th Century Fox. These were like where they were in the middle of building it for 20th Century Fox. So a lot of these like scenes and stuff that you see McClane, where it's like there's building work going on, there's legit building work going on, but I thought that was quite interesting. But what do we think about one location action films? I love them. I'll throw it out there now. One of my favorites is probably the recent the 2012 Dread film. That's an amazing one location. It's ripping this off clearly a little bit, or is it ripping the Raid off? Which one's it ripping off?
But maybe more the Raid, but I get you.
But yeah, the one location action film, I'm a big fan of it. Obviously, in the later sequels we get in Die Hard, that expands a little bit. We're in an airport in the next one, and I think, to be honest, it's a big reason why I like Die Hard with a Vengeance as well, because we really like broaden the horizons there. We are one location, but it's all entirely New York, and that is their playground. But guys, what do we think of the one location action film? Paul?
Yeah, I mean, the first one that comes to my head as you were talking then is Speed. It's obviously all on, and that's a very Die Hard sort of movie, and it's all just, for the most part, it's on a bus. Even when we were talking before about, the everyday sort of character, Keanu Reeves' character in that is quite a bit like John McClane in terms of like wrong place or wrong time sort of thing. But yeah, like The Raid obviously is one of my favorite films of the last 20 years. That's obviously a one location movie. I like it when the location becomes a character of itself, and the Nakatomi Plaza is definitely that. Like, I like the way that every floor is like, it's like a level, it's like a video game. Like every floor is like a different stage of a video game. John McClane's got to get from, the bottom to the final boss at the top. Obviously, you look at Bruce Lee. What's that film, the Bruce Lee one? It's sort of Game of Death, sort of like that. Yeah. Climb the levels to the final boss. So yeah, and I really like the Nakatomi Plaza. I'd love to go to the location where it is. I know a lot of people who have gone out to America who are film fans have gone to see it. But yeah, like you said, there was a bit of a trend of one location action films, and if they're done right, like you instantly remember the location because it in parcel becomes a part of the film and it's a character in itself.
Yeah, absolutely. I was just one come to my mind there, Assault on Precinct 13, not the John Carpenter one, but the remake. I think that's a phenomenal film with was it Lawrence Fishburne and Ethan Hawke? Great little movie that. Yeah, had a really good time with that. But yeah, Andy, one location action films. Is there any that spring to mind for you that you really like?
Yeah, there's a lot that's already been mentioned, but yeah, definitely the whole the Die Hard honor became an easy template for big studios and little studios. Like, Die Hard on a boat, Under Siege, Die Hard on a bus, Speed, Die Hard on a train, Under Siege 2. It's just like Die Hard in a fucking airport security terminal, carry on. Still happening. It's still happening.
Yeah.
It works. It works. And if you do it well, it's like, see, once you get a template for something, a genre, like, so Die Hard's a genre and then it's an action film, but it was kind of the first really successful one to create that template. The underdog against all odds in one location is like, that's the Die Hard honor template. And if you and Carry On that's just came out there, watched it last night. I think we've all seen it here. Great little flick. Owes a lot to Die Hard, and I think you said, Paul, Phone Booth. And as I was watching, I was like, it's probably more like Phone Booth than Die Hard. But great little film in its own right, and just shows that you can still use that template even today. And as long as you have good actors, decent script, competent director and editor, it still works. So yeah, but my favourite of that, well, I think Speed's great. That's been covered already. But I'm a bit of a I've got a guilty pleasure for Jerry Butler because he's my countryman. So I do like the Fallen films, but they're all shite. But Gerard Butler's just got an on-screen charm. I wish he'd used his Scottish accent more, but it wouldn't have made sense in Olympus Has Fallen, really. But Olympus Has Fallen, directed by Anton Farquhar, I think, isn't it? The first one was done by Training Day director. It's good. It's good. Like, and it's Die Hard in a White House. So where the threat is to, obviously, the president. So yeah, that's probably my pick of the Die Hard spin-offs, if you like, or clones. The Die Hard clones.
Guys, I think one thing we can all agree on right now is that the cast for this film is pretty amazing. Particularly, though, our hero and our villain. So we'll start off with Bruce Willis, John McClane. I personally think this is just one of the best casting decisions ever, because you've got to remember, in 1988, well, not that I remember, I've done some research, but he was just a TV guy, Bruce Willis, before Die Hard. He'd been on the likes of, I think one of his biggest roles or part roles was on Miami Vice. So the old Don Johnson, Miami Vice. He was in there.
I think the biggest show that he was known for at the time was a sitcom called Moonlighting with Sybil Shepherd, which makes him even more of a left field pick, because he was ultimately the handsome co-romantic lead in a sitcom. So not your first pick, is it really, for
absolutely for not. Hard. But what a stroke of genius. To me, honestly, like, I know we love Arnie. We all love Arnie here. We all love Sly to a certain degree. But for me, there's just no one like as cool. Maybe Riggs gets there, but there's just no one as cool as John McClane. And a big reason for that, for me, is that, we get to 88 with a slew of movies in the 80s and the one-liners. I don't think anyone said the one-liners as good as what Bruce Willis does. That's just my opinion. I think Arnie says them and we sort of laugh a little bit, but we're sort of laughing at Arnie when he's saying them, Same with Sly a little bit, but you get to McClane and you're just like, oh my God, this guy's a funny fucker. He just says it with so much ease, so much coolness. But guys, there was many actors who were considered for John McClane. So let's just hear this list a second. We've got Harrison Ford. We've got Paul Newman. We've got Al Pacino, Richard Gere, Burt Reynolds. Like, to me, these are all pretty older guys, even in 1988. But they might have been the same age as Bruce Willis. But one of the main players that the producers were trying to get on board for the film was Clint Eastwood, interestingly. But he declined to do it. I think he didn't get the jokes in the film and stuff like that, or any of the banter in the film.
You could ask yourself a question. Do I feel lucky?
Took the words out of yeah. I don't know. Lads, what do you think about that lineup right there? Like Al Pacino, like yippee-ki-yay!
She got a great ass.
I could not imagine Al Pacino in this role whatsoever. Burt Reynolds, like
motherfucker.
Yeah. I can't imagine any of these folks doing it. I think they wanted Clint Eastwood, and I may have got my research wrong, but from what I can gather, Clint Eastwood did own the rights to the novel at a certain point. I think we've also Frank Sinatra owned the rights to the novel at a certain point. Like, imagine asking Frank Sinatra at one point to be in this film.
Oh, you should see it in probably like 60 or something like that.
Yeah. But they were going quite old, clearly, by like the lineup of people that they almost had playing John McClane.
Do you know what I was thinking about that? I was thinking about that because I was aware of the Frank Sinatra trivia, because I think it was in the contract that he had for it, that he had an option in the contract to play the lead character. So legally they had to offer it to him. So they did actually offer Frank Sinatra the role. Like they kind of like 99% knew he wouldn't take it, but he could have just turned around and said, fuck it. And then they'd be like, fuck. It'd be interesting to see what would happen then, because probably like the direct, like, you might not have got McTiernan on board then, because they may have been, it's going to be naff if it's Frank Sinatra, so it might have melted away. We might have never have got the Die Hard that. But do you know what I was thinking though? Do you not think that if they did like a 30th anniversary, it's fucking 40th anniversary more like, trailer for it as a wee nod to that, I actually think a reworked version of My Way would work really well over a Die Hard trailer, because it's like it would, wouldn't you see that trend we have now, where they take an old song and they deconstruct it and they modernise it.
I had it my.
Just imagine them jumping off the roof at that point. With the fucking building going up in the background. It'd be great, man. Anyway, sorry.
I tell you what, Harrison Ford.
Thanks for indulging me there.
Harrison Ford made me raise my eyebrow. I wouldn't have minded him in the role, but all that list that list, well, yeah, true. That list you reeled off then. I was thinking, no, not because they're bad actors, just that, like we've said previously, to me, Bruce Willis, he's like your dad, isn't he? That's the vibe you get from John McClane. He's like your dad. He's not like, I'm not going to say he's an ugly bastard, but them geezers you mentioned are all handsome motherfuckers, and Bruce Willis he just looks like an everyday Joe, and that's the point of the character. So I think they knocked it out of the park with that casting. And like you said, he wasn't a very known actor at the time. He was sort of like the Michael Keaton to Batman sort of thing. I think he come from like a comedy background, and then he jumped into this, and obviously took his career off into a stratosphere after this.
This ain't the same film without Bruce Willis. No way. He absolutely makes this film for me. Like, John McTiernan, like, awesome director, obviously, but I think the marriage of the two, like we were saying a lot, like with Total Recall, like Arnie and Paul Verhoeven, that was just like a marriage made in heaven for that particular film. I think it's exactly the same here. And if I'm not mistaken, I know John McTiernan doesn't come back for the second one, but he does come back for Die Hard with a Vengeance, doesn't he? He is the director.
You can
tell. Yeah. Absolutely. So there is just something about Bruce Willis that works with John McTiernan. But it's a bit of a weird one as well, right? Because this didn't exactly like send Bruce Willis off into the action realm stratosphere. Not really. Like, he had like a few weird sort of roles after this. Like, he's in Death Becomes Her and stuff like that. It's just like out of left field choices, whereas the likes of Arnie and Sly were still bounding on with the action, I would have thought it might have made Bruce Willis a bit more of an action star. I'm not talking about the last 10, 15 years, because he has been like, we know why he's been doing all these films and that. Now I don't really want to touch on that mega. Get well soon, Bruce Willis. But like he more did that in his later life. In the 90s, it was still a bit rocky. It was only really Die Hard that he was coming back to, that there were like the big action tentpoles. We had the likes of Last Boy Scout, where he's like a private detective in that one. Arguably, if you watch Last Boy Scout, he is fucking John McClane in that film as well. Like they are pretty much bang on similar, but like Last Boy Scout like isn't the action behemoth that obviously this franchise was. But guys, flip the coin over, we get Alan Rickman as Hans Gruber. Holy shit! Now there's an argument that this film wouldn't be what it was without Hans Gruber, Alan Rickman playing him.
More than an argument.
Oh yeah, 100%. Mr. McLean. That was my Snape impression.
And this to make your acquaintance.
That was pretty good. But yeah, Hans Gruber in this film, awesome character, played by the awesome Alan Rickman. He was actually first choice for the role. He was a totally unknown at the time, but had done a lot of Broadway. You can probably totally get that vibe from him, to be fair. And he actually influenced the script quite a lot as well. So, like, originally they had Hans Gruber in like full sort of terrorist outfit with like the army jacket and stuff like that, and it just wouldn't have suited Hans Gruber whatsoever. So it was actually Alan Rickman who come on and was like, "Look, we need to put this guy in a suit. He's incredibly smart. He comes across very well. He needs to be in a suit." I really like that direction. I like the fact that Alan Rickman sort of had some bravado in a film with these like producers, a lot of money involved and whatnot, but like they saw something in Alan Rickman, was like, yeah, this guy's got, a few brain cells up there. He might know what he's talking about. Hans Gruber, to me, boys, is like one of the best villains of the 80s, maybe of all time. And I think a lot like the film itself has gone on to influence many villains, an array of villains. You get a lot of Hans Gruber knockoffs, don't you? He was that good. They decided to bring his bloody brother back in Die Hard with a Vengeance,
I love that twist, man. Still gets me every time.
Yeah, it's so good because it does that little flash, doesn't it? Of him.
Does the name Hans Gruber mean anything to you?
Then there's a little flash of Hans Gruber where he's falling at the end of the film, which that bit with Hans Gruber where he's falling off the Nakatomi Plaza is a great bit of acting, because really it's not actually acting. The stunt guys let him go early. It wasn't on the 1, 2, 3. I think they let him go at number 2, and he was like, "Oh shit!" So that is a genuine reaction there from Alan Rickman. But boys, Hans Gruber, what the hell do we think of this absolute gem when it comes to this movie? Paul, go to you first, mate.
Yeah, man. For a generation above us, Alan Rickman is going to be known as Severus Snape for a lot of people. To me, he will always be Hans Gruber. Like you said, I actually read this a few weeks ago. It was his first big major role, and that surprised the hell out of me reading that. And so late in life, I've seen Die Hard a million times. It's the first time I read that a few weeks ago. I was like, shit, I never knew that. Because he comes across as someone who's been doing it for years. And like you said, man, like I was trying to picture the film, then him in like army stuff and that, and I'm like, no, that's not the character. He even says in it, "Who says I was a terrorist?" Yeah, he's got the suit. He comes across cold, calculated. He knows what he's doing. I always say the amount of time. Well, you guys probably say it as well, and anyone watching this who watches action films, you need to have the action hero, but it's nothing without the villain. You gotta have the yin and yang. If you've got a crap villain in a movie, you instantly pull it when you're criticizing an action film. Like, I enjoyed the film, crap villain. You'd never say that about Alan Rickman and Hans Gruber, because he's sort of like the template for an awesome villain. Like, when you think of what you want, when I'm watching an action film and I'm thinking what I want, the villain, I'm like, I hope he's as good as Hans Gruber, because like you said, he's arguably one of the best villains in any sort of action film ever made. I think he's fantastic. And he's Bruce Willis, is the star of the film, but Alan Rickman's like there. He's like double bill. Like, he's I don't think this film would be as good without Alan Rickman, the same as Bruce Willis.
I think you're absolutely right, Paul. See, it's like boxing, for example, right? It's like your hero's only as good as his opposition. So it's like, you could take a great fighter in a boxing ring, right? Your favorite fighter, whoever it is, right? And have him fight like some lesser unknown guy, right? You're still going to enjoy watching your hero knock this guy out, but there's no stakes because you're not expecting him to. He's going to beat the guy. Whereas in an action film of this type, like you say, if you give him a worthy adversary, that throughout the film you're not sure. You're like, God, how's this guy? Who's he going to overcome this guy? I mean, in Die Hard, you've got, like you say, the suit's a masterclass. Alan Rickman, great actor. You're right. It's his first role, and I think in the special features and stuff, the legacy ones, I'm sure I've seen where he kind of like was almost embarrassed and felt he was selling out by doing this because he'd been a theatre actor and he felt this was a bit, he'd taken on this like cheesy kind of action role. He had no idea like the cultural impact Die Hard was going to have. And obviously his career went in films thereafter, but you've got him with the suit and all that. So he's your intellectual. It's the classic brawn versus brain in a way. Like he's came in, he's planned, he's immaculate. He's got the suit. You've got the setup at the beginning with they take that building over with such efficiency, German efficiency and ease. And then you've got the hero who's like, what the fuck has happened here? I've not even got a pair of shoes on. Like, I've not even got a shot. I've not got a shot on my back. I'm in this building with my service weapon that thank fuck I brought with me, and that's it. Like, I don't have a plan. I'm going to have to make this up as I go along against this guy who has a whole army with him and has thought about every minute detail. But there's never fisticuffs with Hans between McClane and Hans Gruber. It's always a battle of wits. It's always a battle. Oh, there's a shootout at one point, but they're always trying to outsmart each other. You know, Hans keeps trying to shut him down, but Willis just keeps, like the clues in the title, Die Hard, and basically he keeps just coming up with some mental counter to whatever he's trying to do and being the flying ointment, as he's called in the film, the monkey on the wrench. So, and that's what makes it great, is because if you don't, like you say, if you don't have that, it doesn't work. It's part of the reason why Carry On, not to mention it again, but Carry On kind of works for the same reason, because Bateman's great in that role, and as a kind of cold, calculating villain for Taron Egerton's character to deal with. But the MVP for me here is coming down to, I think Bruce Willis could take it, but it's Alan Rickman could have it just as well, because without Alan Rickman in it, he doesn't shine as much, you know. For me,
because just to like Paul's point earlier on, like how many films do we watch where it's like it was almost like 90% there, but then it's got a shite villain that you just never remember. There's so many of them films, you know.
Like Bond films are like that a lot of the time.
Yeah, a little bit. But also just like going off Andy's point there's a lot of brains in this film, right? Just overall. Like you compare this to Commando, you know, where that is very like we are full steam ahead, like we are going for it in that film. It's very action-packed, very action-heavy. And this is like considered one of the best action films of all time. But when you actually think about it, there's a lot of like Bruce Willis trying to think about how he's going to like get the attention of Sergeant Al, you know, in the police car, the squad car. Who's that driving? Stevie Wonder, you know, like all that thing, you know, like there's a lot of brains in this action film. So I think it's another reason why it sort of stands the test of time a little bit. It isn't just pedal to the metal, like full on action film. It's got a lot of brains behind it as well. But guys, is there anyone else we sort of want to mention in the cast? I just really wanted to bring up those two. We have got Reginald Vell Johnson, who does play Sergeant Owl Powell. He needs to lay off them Twinkies, man. But, that tees up one of my favorite scenes later on. But anyone in the cast, anyone else we want to mention? I want to give a shout out to the blonde German brothers as well. Is it Carl and Tony? So obviously you've got Tony's jumper on there, Andy. I love the whole thing of like Carl. I don't have who plays him. Alexander Godunov. Yeah, that's the one. I love that this guy's got his own fucking side mission through this whole film. Like he has got a vendetta against John McClane, and even comes back at the end, which I'll get into on one of my favorite scenes as well.
I always thought he was Vigo in Ghostbusters 2 as well. It's not
a bad shout. No, I'd see why you know that.
But when I was a kid, I used to think it was the same person.
Vigo is in this. Did you know that?
Is he? I knew there was something about fucking Vigo with this film.
So Vigo is the German henchman guy, part of the team that goes, shite, when the fucking thing.
Who is he?
So the guy.
I knew there was something there.
So he's Vigo from Ghostbusters 2, who boycotted the Ghostbusters boycotted the Ghostbusters 2 premiere because he originally had the speaking part in that, and then realised it didn't work, and he got dubbed over, but they didn't tell him. So when he turned up at the premiere and he stormed off in a huff. Apparently.
So well, speaking of Ghostbusters, obviously Sergeant Al Powell's in Ghostbusters as well, and he's the copper who lets him out to go and see the mayor towards the end.
Right,
he goes, "Hey, the mayor wants to see you," and if people online say they reckon it's the same character because they literally are both cops. And obviously, keeping with Ghostbusters, you got William Atherton, Thornburg, in this, who's the biggest 80s sleazeball ever.
Yeah.
He's an absolute arsewipe in this film. Similar to Ghostbusters, but he's great in it, to be fair.
You can imagine his agent got some arsewipe scripts for you, William.
Another arsewipe script's come across my desk, William.
Does he not? I think he returns in Die Hard 2 as well, if I'm not mistaken. Isn't he on the flight?
Yeah,
he's on the
somehow
flight.
He's on the same fucking flight as I mean, I'll just say that again, it's a hallmark of a classic film is that almost every character in this film is memorable, regardless of how everyone, even the terrorists, are even memorable. The side, the supporting cat, Hart Bochner is what do we call him? Is Ellis or namesake? Your namesake. I mean, he's only in it for 10 minutes of screen time. Very memorable. I mean, I couldn't tell you anything else he's been in, but he's brilliant for what he has to do in that film. William Atherton, as you said, there. Even the Dwayne T. Robinson guy, he's great as well. The guy that has the 2 and 4th with Al Jordan, before he then gets replaced. And then you've got Robert Davi as well, an 80s stalwart as the 2 Johnsons. Brilliant, genius as well to give them the same name. Do you know what I mean? It's just really, really clever writing. It's a clever, as much as it's an action film, like you said, Alice. It's clever. It's narratively clever. It's tight. There's tension in it all the way through. It's just tension. It's just tension set piece after tension set piece, usually by a kind of situation that McClane ends up in, where he's before he's just got over the last problem, and now he's straight into the next problem, and where he's got the wife's in the building. He's got that to think about. It's great. Just it's so clever. It's easy just to disregard Die Hard as a throwaway action film and stuff, but when you really start to dissect it, you realize just how much of a masterpiece it is. And all the elements are singing.
I mean, I need to speak. I want to talk about Argyle, my boy.
Argyle, I'm your limo driver.
We will get onto that with favourite scenes, because you know when you watch a film so many times, and obviously you've got the favourite scenes, but it's everyone else's favourite scenes. But the more you watch it, the more little bits that you pick up on, because you're so used of seeing the famous scenes, and then as you constantly watching a film, you pick up little other things. Like Argyle's got some of my favorite parts, quotes in this film. But shout out to Al Leong, the Asian henchman who's in every 80s movie. Even my missus knows that guy. It's it's that guy from that 80s action movie who's in everything. And he's waiting to shoot, and he's noticed the snacks. He's starts eating them.
Do you know what's brilliant? You're right. It's amazing though, because see, that. One thing about Die Hard that probably doesn't get talked about enough is that it's funny. It's genuinely funny.
Oh yeah.
Pretty much all the way through. It's not a comedy, but it's McTiernan never forgets that this is ultimately a Hollywood piece of entertainment. So as much as there's proper stakes, it's tense, it's violent as hell. There's people getting executed point blank in it, like Mr. Takagi. But there's still time for those little moments of relief, which help, because it's quite a tense, dark film. But then you get little bits of dark, sarcastic, ironic humor. Like you say, I mean, what did you say his name was? The Nestle Crunch guy. I've described him as being the guy that steals the Nestle Crunch and Die Hard for years. Whenever I'm trying to get people to know what I'm talking about. But that scene, he's waiting on a SWAT team coming in. He's part of a team. He's part of a team that's taken a building hostage. He's he's getting set up to shoot cops as they come in the door, and then he looks at the Nestle Crunch bar and he's like. He's worried about being caught. For stealing the fucking bar of chocolate. and then you've got he's about to murder people. Do you know what I mean? And he's fucking
worried about the bar of chocolate.
He's but there's loads of stuff like that. Loads of ironic humor. There's the bit with the SWAT team guy. It's fucking. running, like they're running on this big assault, and that'd be terrible tactics the way they just run at it. But like they run at it and they're going through. One's going through like a rose bush, and he's all kitted up and that, and then he gets stung by like he gets caught on a thorn, and he's like, "Oh, you bastard!" It's just sort of like supposed to be this big tough SWAT guy, and he's like, he's getting upset about this fucking rose bush.
Just like when our pal's like, they're shooting the lights, and then the captain goes, "Turn off the lights."
they're shooting the lights. They're shooting the lights. It's just there's so much comedy in it that you kind of forget about, but it's just enough. It's just enough to like.
Well, I think why you remember the comedy is because it takes you out of the tenseness, so you instantly remember the bit where it uplifted you from all the action and the tense bits.
Yeah.
You do need the levity. No, I was just going to say you do need that levity because, like you were saying, Andy, earlier on, like when they shoot Takagi in the head, Mr. Takagi, right at the start of the film, that is some violent shit when you see it. Like, and it's sort of unexpected a little bit as well. But like the big spray of blood on the wall and stuff, you do need sort of that levity, and it just works really well. And what I want to know when I was looking into this film, apparently Bruce Willis actually like ad-libbed a lot of his lines and stuff like that. His one-liners, like that's clever in itself. Maybe Bruce Willis was like thinking, right, this may be my one and last chance. I've just come off moonlighting. I need this to work. So let's pick the brain a little bit for these one-liners. But yeah, totally awesome.
Aye, the humor's great. And I was just going to say about Bruce Willis. I'm talking about all these little silly points from like almost like extras and like on the fringe supporting cast. But yeah, let's not forget just like almost every line McClane comes out with is funny. It might not be like proper taking you out of it funny, but it's like enough just to give a little bit of like, because it's more situationally funny with him because it's like he's not trying to be funny. He's fucking pissed off that people aren't taking him. Like the no fucking shit lady that sound like I'm ordering a pizza and all that. Like he is not being funny in the moment. He's exasperated and he's fucked off because he's like, I'm in a shit situation here. Start fucking doing your job. Just take me seriously, kind of thing. But it's funny for us watching it. But it's like, it doesn't turn it into a comedy. It's kind of like
his delivery
is
awesome.
Nobody could do that like him. Arnie couldn't do that. No, Arnie couldn't deliver lines like that. He could, but it would be ridiculous because of that accent. Plus, how would you explain? How would you explain that he's this Austrian guy that's fucking? We'll come to that section later on.
Right, guys, we're gonna get into our favorite scenes here. Right, Paul. I feel like you need to go. I feel like you need to go first. I feel like you've got a few things to say about our man Argyle.
My man Argyle. Listen, like I said, right? When you've watched the film so many times, you know it inside out, the script word for word, and then I do it. I don't know if you guys do it. Once you know a film inside out, you then start looking for other bits in it to sort of latch onto. Like, I didn't notice that before, or I didn't notice like little nuanced things that characters do. Argyle in this film, man, is hilarious. Like right from the start, where John McClane goes, "You got any Christmas music?" And he goes, "This is Christmas music." He's got fucking Run DMC playing. It was December 25th, and there's a hell at the door.
Christmas music. This is Christmas music.
And I love that song because of this film. Like every time it gets to Christmas, I'm like, why aren't you ever playing Run DMC, man? Like, I don't want to hear Mariah Carey. Stick Run DMC on. And he's like the nicest guy as well. He's like, go up. He says, go up, try and fix it with your wife. If it doesn't work, I'll wait in the parking lot. We'll go fucking shoot the shit uptown. And he's throughout the film. He towards the end of the film, he ends up. Had he not have been there, he ends up sort of helping out the situation. But just little things he does, like when Bruce Willis is trying to ring him, and he's on the phone, and the cop car's going behind him, and he's on the phone, and that with that giant teddy, and he's great. He's one of my favorite characters in the whole film. He never used to be, but like I said, because I've seen the film so many times, I was trying to latch onto different things in the film, through watching it, recently. Like Argyle's class. I love him.
He's racking them minutes up on the phone, man, in that limo.
Yeah.
Am I imagining
We got it. We got everything. CB.
Am I imagining this, or does it see when it cuts to him and it's that, I don't know the name of the song, but it's that really 80s fucking like R&B song, and he's like totally headbanging in that. Yeah. Do you see the car in the background, or does it just cut to it?
No, you see
you actually see the car behind him, do you?
He goes, I hope you seen that. Hope you seen that Argyle. Like John McClane's like, hope you see that Argyle. He just cuts him like, din, 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 din.
You heard the shots. You're calling the police right now.
Of course I'm still coming by later. Sweetheart, if I ever lied to you?
Pop it in the car.
Quality. I got any more favourite scenes, Paul?
My favorite scene, like there's two big scenes in the film that are my personal favorite. Obviously, the big one is the shootout on the roof with the explosion, because it's just all action. I feel like the film up until that point is building to that, and that's like sort of the middle act finale to the middle act, if you like. It's well shot. The explosion's awesome. The way he jumps off, like it's all done practical. They literally blow the roof off a bloody building. Anything like that, and you see it a lot in 80s, 90s action movies, because they did shoot a lot practical. I always go back to Terminator 2 when they blew up Cyberdyne, and they only had one shot of doing it, and it looks amazing on film. Again, in Die Hard, this building explosion looks amazing. I love that scene. One of my other favorite scenes is when John McClane, I think he's in Takagi's office, I think, and the thugs come in and he gets under the table, and I can't remember the line the frigging terrorist says to him, but then he reiterates something else to him and just shoots him through the table. What does he say to him again? I can't remember.
Next time you get a chance to kill someone, don't hesitate.
Do it.
Next time you have a chance to kill someone, don't hesitate.
Thanks for the advice.
Yeah, but just like, again, 80s and 90s action movies, the guns sound amazing. Like the guns in today's films don't sound as cool as they did back in the 80s. And when you're watching it, with a half decent setup at home, it just sounds, it's like boom, 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 boom. It's like so cool, man. I love that scene.
Just on that point, Paul, there, you mentioned about the gun sounds and stuff like that. Bruce Willis actually did a lot of his own stunts in this film. Ended up going nearly deaf in one ear because of the sound of the gunshots in the film. So
I thought you were going to say, I thought you were going to say that he did his own gunshot effects there.
No. He's not making his own powder in the back and stuff like that. Yeah.
Oh, that's so realistic. He's just beatboxing it.
I'll go quickly. I've got two favorite scenes in the film. One of my first one is when Hans and John McClane sort of bump into each other. I think Hans Gruber, the down to not a lot of men at the moment, so Hans is going to find the detonators at the top of the building, and he ends up bumping into John McClane. And like Hans bumps into him, just sees his feet initially, and is like, "Oh shit!" and like looks up and instantly puts on this American accent, Hans Gruber, to make him look like he's one of the hostages. Oh God! Oh God!
You're one of them, aren't you? You're one of them.
Oh, please, God, no! You're one of them, aren't you? You're one of them. No, don't kill me, please! No, please! Don't kill me! Don't kill me, please!
Whoa! Relax! I'm not gonna hurt you.
What does he call himself? Clay.
Clay, yeah,
Bill Clay.
Bill Clay.
I think he gets it off one of the the officers who like owns the offices are all like on this placard thing, and he gets it off there, Clay. But it's just quite funny because this is like a British actor putting on a German voice in the film, then changing it to American in that scene. So you've got like 3 layers going on there, 2 layers, sorry. But that whole scene's just amazing, and the way it plays out. And when, McClane gives him the cigarette, gives him one of his cigarettes, but he gives him one of his German cigarettes. So I was sort of like reading about this scene. I think one of the one of the realizations that John McClane has that this is actually Hans Gruber is when he gives him the cigarette, because German cigarettes are very, very harsh. So obviously Hans Gruber, being German, when he gives him the cigarette, he doesn't cough on the cigarette or anything like that. So that obviously turns a little bit of a key in John McClane's head. Then gives him the gun, obviously. Yeah, no bullets, asshole. Whatever he said to him.
Think of fucking stupid, Hans.
yeah. In his classic line delivery. But I absolutely love that scene. I think it's really good.
They were saying.
And yeah. But,
no bullets.
Yeah, that's it. No bullets. I love the bit where like Hans just like instantly just starts speaking in German when he's behind him, sort of thing. It's just like the music sort of clicks at that moment and stuff. Awesome scene. Just also displaying some great acting between them. You finally get the first meet up between them, because they've obviously heard each other a lot throughout the film on the radio talkies, haven't they? So that's obviously why Hans is trying to change his voice and stuff. But anyway, my other scene that I like is that we do get that, we get Sergeant Al is like helping McClane throughout the film and stuff like that on the outside. And McClane asks him like, "Oh, have you ever shot your gun, Al?" And he's like, "No, I shot a kid." So he's like, he doesn't shoot his gun anymore. But then we get the scene right at the end of the movie where I can't remember. Is it Michael, Tony's brother, or Carl? Sorry, Tony's brother. Comes back from the fucking dead out of nowhere. Basically, he's all burnt to a crisp and stuff like that. And then we get Al who shoots him, and it's just like this sort of heroic moment for Al. I do love that. But yeah, they're my two favorite scenes. There's many scenes that you could mention. Andy, some of your favorite scenes in Die Hard, mate.
Yeah, it's so hard to narrow them down because I like them all. Like I like the film as a whole. But yeah, for me, the bits I used to always watch over and over again as a kid were like, I prefer the earlier stuff. I like, when he's just adapt at first, when he's getting kind of hunted by them and stuff. The elevator shaft, or the aircon shaft stuff's all great. I love all that. Like like Die Hard made that a thing. Now there was obviously films where there's scenes in like Aliens, for example. There's a big air duct scene in that, but it's like massive. You could get like a fucking football team in it. You could literally get a xenomorph in it. But like Die Hard was probably more realistic in that it was like, I mean, if you ever look at an aircon duct, they're tiny, so it was kind of true to life for that. And he got in it and he can barely move. Like it's really, really claustrophobic. So I love that scene. Obviously delivers the line.
Come out to the coast. We'll get together. Have a few laughs.
Memorable lines from him. But that whole thing, that to me is what Die Hard's all about. It's about him constantly thinking on his feet, doing desperate things that up until that point I hadn't really seen in action films, rather than just going head. If that had been an Arnie film set a few years prior to that, he would just have went, when we're dealing with three guys, cool, I'll just fucking shoot them all with one mag. And then, beat him up, and that's three guys down. Cool. I might only have a vest and no shoes, but I've still managed to smash these guys because I'm Arnie. But Willis is like, I have no chance. I'm totally outnumbered. I need to run away from these people effectively, and that's what he's doing. He's running away, and that's the whole bit. It's just dripping with tension. The MP5 that just conveniently fits perfectly in the door frame. And then, it snaps and he falls. And if you look at the cut, if you look at the last, I've seen this film so many times. If you look at the last scene before he grabs it, the stunt double's was like about 3 feet away from he's bounced out into the middle of the shaft. He's never catching that, but he catches it. He catches it, climbs in, great. And then you've got, as if that wasn't enough, then Carol comes down, realizes what he's done, comes down. And you've got that whole bit when it's like systematically, he's like popping.
Yeah.
It's great that, and then he gets the radio call, and that's what kind of saves him. But that's great, and then that rolls off into like the scene that Paul was talking about, where he's under the table. Another great line, and then the whole "Welcome to the party, pal," which is brilliant. So yeah, that's probably one of my favourites.
I'm surprised you haven't mentioned your jumper. That's got to be one of my favourite scenes.
That's obviously class. Like and it's the way Alan Rickman says it that makes it funny as well.
Now I have a machine gun. Ho, ho, ho.
It just makes it 100 times better.
Right, guys. There's so many we can pick from. We've already said a lot here, but favorite lines in these films. That the one I was going to use was definitely the supervisor on the 911 call. Attention, whoever you are, this channel is reserved for emergency calls only. No fucking shit, lady. Does it sound like I'm ordering a pizza? I absolutely love that. The line delivery is absolutely amazing.
Attention, whoever you are, this channel is reserved for emergency calls only.
No fucking shit, lady. Do I sound like I'm ordering a pizza?
Another one as well. This is just a small one, but a lot like I said in the Total Recall review that we did. Whenever he says bullshit, I also like it whenever McClane says dickhead. So when he says drop it, dickhead, I absolutely love that bit of profanity there. And it's got to be Ellis as well when he's trying to negotiate some sort of deal.
Hans, Bobby, I'm your white knight.
Get the hell out of here, Ellis. I love all that. But yeah, they're my favorite lines. The plethora of
I absolutely love the deliberate last shot of Ellis before the gunshot is him like his mouth's all scrunched up. He's like he's tanning that glass of Coke. Yeah. He's like so vulnerable and stupid looking, like his tongue wrapped around this fucking glass of Coke. And then that's the last shot of him, but like that moment of realization when he realizes he's about to be shot.
Ellis is an idiot, man. Like even right at the start, like where McClane first meets him and he's like, seeing his wife again for the first time and that. And he's just like looking at him. He's like, show him the watch. Show him the watch. Yeah. But that's
the first shot of him is him doing a line of Coke. That's the first time you see him. He's taking a line of Coke off the.
Yeah, it is. And McClane comes in, he goes, missed a bit. But yeah, no, great. Favorite lines, Paul? Have you got any? I know we've said them.
Yeah, it's one that comes to mind when he goes, asshole, I'm not the one who just got butt fucked on national TV. And then it cuts to Argyle, and Argyle goes,
You listen to me, you little asshole.
Asshole? I'm not the one who just got butt fucked on national TV, Dwayne. Now you listen.
Dwayne. Yeah, Dwayne. Yeah. I got some bad news for you, Dwayne. You're in charge of jack shit.
Yeah, man. Andy, any more before we move into the next category?
So many good ones, man. Yippee-ki-yay is obviously a top.
Oh shit!
Like,
yeah.
That's like culturally like you say yippee-ki-yay to anyone and they know exactly what you're talking about.
Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker.
Like when he first says it to him on the radio, like and he signs off with it.
Isn't that something to do with Clint Eastwood? Isn't that?
Gary Cooper,
don't say like.
No, because Hans basically says you just are an American that's watched too many movies as a kid, and he starts listing all the kind of like heroes of the Western era, and then he's like, "Nah, it was Gary Cooper actually, asshole," or something like that. And and that's why he says yippee-ki-yay. Yeah, yippee-ki-yay. I've not seen the film, but I believe that was a line that Gary Cooper used to say. So it was like it was like a twos up.
Come with me if you want to live. That's a good one as well.
That's good. So the yippee-ki-yay is a classic, and then Happy Trails, Hans, it's a topper. Like when he, like the whole bit at the end when he's like laughing and all that, and he's got the fact that, I mean, how can you say it's not a Christmas film? He's got fucking a gun strapped to his back with Merry Christmas tape on it, and then he like, it's like bang bang, Happy Trails, Hans, like amazing.
Happy Trails, Hans.
Doesn't Kyle Reese have a similar line in the Terminator? Come with me if you want to live. What is the line in the Terminator? Exactly.
That's it. Come with me if you want to live.
Is that it? Have they stole that?
And Die Hard's, you want to stay alive, stay with me.
Right. Anyway, Die Hard. So many good lines. Right, guys. Next category. Director's cut. So, is there anything that you would add? Is there anything that you would take away? I'll go first for this one, and it's probably going to be an unpopular opinion. I would actually shave some minutes off the start of the film. So I probably wouldn't have McClane on the plane and stuff like that. Just because this is just for me. don't shoot me down in the comments. This film is quite long for what it is. Like when watching it recently, it does sort of not drag at moments, but I think we could have got into Hans in the crew getting into Nakatomi Plaza more quickly than it sort of does happen. So if it was me from a director's cut, I would maybe shave a couple of minutes off the start of the film. Don't get me wrong, I like it where he's like in the actual airport, not the plane, but the airport, and he sees that like last runs past with like the joggers on, and he's like, whoa, like California, man. Do you know what I mean?
California.
Yeah.
Fucking California. That's good when he gets kissed at the party. He's like, fucking California.
Yeah. But yeah, if I'm just being a stroppy guy or just want to add something to the conversation, I'd shave a few minutes off the start of the film. Paul, anything you would add? Anything you'd take away? Anything you'd want to see in your director's cut?
Oh man, that is a hard question. I don't think I'd want to see anything cut from the film. There's no part in the film like I don't enjoy this part. If I was to add anything, and I don't think it would add much to it, nor does it need to be there, I would probably maybe give us a bit more explanation about how Hans met his crew and why he knows them. And there might even be a few lines of dialogue in the film here and there, which probably tell you that, which I can't quite remember. But I'd like to have maybe seen a scene where, how does he know Carl? How does he know the guy who opens what's his name? Theo. How does he know?
Yeah.
How has he met them? How do they know each other? Maybe something like that, like the police look into it whilst they're outside and they find out how they knew each other and how they're connected and stuff. Maybe something like that. Oh man, I can't think of anything I'd change about this film. I really can't.
Are these terrorists or are they thieves? What would you say?
Terrorists, aren't they? But they don't see the bad guys. Don't ever see themselves as bad guys, do they?
All right, that's fair.
I would say that they're not terrorists though, because terrorists.
I'm trying to
terror for the sake of like for an ideal or for a reason. They try to instill terror into people. In the name of an ideal or for an agenda. They are not trying to instill terror in anyone. They're just trying to. They do because of the violent nature in which they conduct but they're not trying to. Like he wants to get off with this. Hence, they've got the plot to blow the roof and make it look like they die because they are ultimately just thieves.
To be fair, now you've said that, they say that in the film, don't they? You're just a bunch of bank robbers.
I think it's a bit of genuine misdirection. Like, built into the story that you think for a long time that they have some kind of agenda, but then it's it gets debunked quickly, intentionally, when he goes on the radio and he's telling them that he wants all these people released, and then he makes the comment to Carol about, I heard about them in Time magazine, like, 'cause he's just fucking making it up because he wants them to think that they're terrorists so that they'll try to negotiate and use the terrorist playbook, which he already knows. So he knows what the FBI will do if they think that they're terrorists. So it's all a master plan from Gruber.
Could he snap?
He's got them playing. He's got them doing exactly what he wants them doing. Because
like when the police are breaking in, he's just like, "Oh, just let them." Like it's
like, they think the negotiations are coming soon. Like, right? Well, what is it they want? What is it they want for this? Whereas they don't want anything. They've got what they want. They want to get what they want and get out. That's the plan. So it's clever. It's good. Like there wasn't much like that back in the day. I think because in a way, like these films had kind of existed in a way, like they were probably your disaster films. So like, what's the one with Steve McQueen, Tower and Inferno? You've had the every guy in one location against a natural disaster kind of thing. There was a few films like that in the 70s, but no one had thought to kind of like bring in more of a plot so that it wasn't just the everyday guy against, that's just a terrible, unfortunate natural disaster you're dealing with there. This is like, it's the everyday guy up against someone evil with a proper calculated plan in one location. So that it was like kind of like the merging of two genres in a way. Die Hard, like from your what you call that again? Disaster movie. It's a disaster movie mixed with your one man army. Disaster movie, one man army together kind of thing. I think.
Andy, director's cut, anything you would put in, take off?
I would say that Die Hard's pretty much one of those perfect films. You know, no film's without its flaws. Even if it's excellent, there's always little things you'll find in it, especially if you've watched it a million times. So for me, it's just a really small nitpick, but it's a scene that does my tits in every time I watch it, and it's when it's really petty, but it's so unprofessional looking. I think coming from me, who's never made a film in his life, but the bit where Carol, they storm the building at the beginning, and Carol's got that weird fucking puck thing that's never been seen again in another movie, where he rolls the puck around the corner. It goes off, distraction device, and then he uses that to jump out and shoot the guard, right? One, the guard didn't have a fucking clue he was there, so he could just have shot him anyway. And two, when the camera cuts to him, he's already like this.
Yeah.
Because he's waiting for the squibs to go off.
Yeah.
So, because it's a one shot. It's not a cut, it's a one shot. So I think what's happened is that Jan de Bont's always went, I want this to be kinetic. So we're going to see Carol come round the corner, point the gun, and I'm going to whip the camera to the guy, and we're going to see the squibs going off. Brilliant. They've done it. But the stuntman's already like that. Instead of then reacting naturally, he's obviously prepped too early for the camera coming around. So there's a few seconds where he's like that, and then he's like, and then they go off. And it's probably went to the daily. He's been missed in the dailies, but shooting and film back in the day. They've probably looked at it and went, that's it's a bit tetchy, that, but we don't have fucking time to go back and like film it. And it's not digital filming when you can just go like these days where they just look at it and go, mate, you were too early there. Just quickly do it again. It's been days later. They've maybe like looked at the dailies of that and went, we'll get away with it, man. We'll get away with it. But I think just because I've watched it so many times, it really pisses me off.
As soon as you started talking, I knew exactly where you were going, because it is a part where every time you see it stands out, because he's like that, and like he's been flashbanged, but he's like dead weird. Yeah.
So he's like, Well, I would edit that.
You know what happened there, don't you?
A few frames out.
They didn't have Paulie Verhoeven on the job. The king of squibs. Squibs, more squibs.
It could have been solved. We just see they just didn't use that technique. Like, just go. Let's just have him round in the corner. Use a different camera. Film the squibs going off, and then we'll just cut them until they work nicely. But he's obviously wanted that dynamic movement. It's not quite worked out because the guy's been too early. Just because it's all one shot kind of thing. But anyway, really nitpicking, but it's all I could think of because the film's perfect otherwise in my eyes.
I was like the shaving the minutes off the start of the film. I was reaching there, to be fair.
Without that, see that bit at the beginning, like, it's your opinion, but like we get the setup that he's a cop there because it's the whole bit with the.
Yeah.
I know that could have been done in a limo, I suppose, with Argyle. You could have mentioned it at that point. But you get it's fist with your toes, man. It's like, you don't want to lose fist with your toes. Do you know what I mean? Just for the sake of a few minutes.
Right, I'm going to swap a few of these categories round. We've got 3 more categories to get into, boys. They won't take long. First one, we sort of touched on it earlier on. Would this film be better with Arnold Schwarzenegger in the lead?
Bullshit.
Come on, don't bullshit me. Bullshit. Bullshit.
Yeah, motherfucker.
I'm going to say no. I'm going to say it wouldn't. It's not out the realm of possibility, though. I don't think, like, we're not talking about something way off out of the action genre here. This could maybe have worked with Schwarzenegger in the lead role, but wouldn't be the same film.
There's no way with a caught his weight falling down that elevator shaft. He would just plummeted to his death going, and the arm, they scream all the way down. Big thump at the bottom, like the fucking Hulk falling at the helicopter.
Imagine trying to get in the imagine trying to get in the vents.
He lands on that guy's motor. Boom.
No, yeah. We've got another one. Andy, where is the best place to watch this movie from your recommendations? You are the 4K man on this pod. Right. Where's the best place to watch this?
I looked at this earlier when I seen your topic, mate. So it's currently only available to stream to subscribers on Disney. So it's the only place you can get it if you subscribe to a platform where you'll get it on 4K. I think it's in HDR10, might be Dolby Vision, but it's certainly not Dolby Vision on the 4K disc. So that's the best place to get it. Cheapest place to get it probably if you want to stream it. But yeah, it's available on 4K, Blu-ray, DVD. It's been on Laserdisc. I think it's been on all the formats over the years. The 4K is quite underwhelming, but it's authentic to how it looked. It's an 80s movie. It's got that kind of grainy. It's got a kind of very sepia tone to it. Die Hard. There's not a lot of color, so it doesn't give you a huge opportunity for like HDR. So HDR gets used. I think it's used quite well in the film, but it's very subtle. It's for like the highlights. It's for like, when you're watching it, like me, if you've watched that a million times. So if you're an avid fan, you want to upgrade to 4K, for example, from the Blu-ray, you might notice things like the Christmas trees occasionally in the background are more vibrant. The colours are a bit more eye-popping and stuff, shit like that. But I mean, who's fucking watching Die Hard for the Christmas trees?
Upgrade.
Yeah. So, but right, you're laughing, but it's a Christmas film. It's the Christmas film argument, right? So if it makes that stand out a bit more, makes it feel a bit more Christmassy.
True.
That's where the immersion is. That's where you spend your money in the old 4K Blu-ray. So yeah, it's underwhelming, but it's one of those ones you pick Die Hard up for like a tenner on 4K in HMV probably this time of year. One of those 10 quid with anything else. In my opinion, if you're going to watch it a lot, I watch it at least once a year. So it's nice. It's a little bit more detailed, but it's not going to blow you away. The biggest letdown with Die Hard in 4K, I think, is sound. It's still got the 5.1 track. Listen to it just there. Very underwhelming. Not very meaty at all, bass-wise. Something like Die Hard, as you said earlier, Paul, was probably one of the best, if not the best, action films of all time. Why it didn't get Atmos, I don't know why it didn't get a kind of reworking as a wee bit criminal. So yeah, not the most amazing demo 4K, but I think it's worth having it for around a tenner because it's one you'll watch over and over again. That's the best way to watch it.
Yeah, I actually don't own it on 4K. I've literally just watched it on Disney Plus for the last few years. Like every Christmas Eve, me and my girlfriend watch it on Disney Plus, and it looks fine. Like, it's like I don't watch it going, oh, this is popping. This HDR10 or whatnot. It looks fine. I quickly want to say I did go and watch it on the big screen 2 Christmases ago with one of my mates. They had a re-release sort of show of it around like a week before Christmas. Obviously, I'd never seen it on the big screen because I wasn't around. Well, I was 1 when it came out. But that was great watching on the big screen. Anytime I can get back and watch these films that I love and see them on the big screen, because you every time I do it, I notice something I've never noticed before. And it's the only time for me when I go to the cinema that I'm fully immersed in a film, and I've never been. You don't get no distractions. It's just you in the film, and it's the only time I've ever done that in my life. Just me and the movie. So if you can ever get out and see it, if it ever re-releases again, I'm sure they'll do it. Around Christmas in other cinemas. They might have not done it this year, but I'm pretty sure they'll do it for like the next anniversary or whatnot. I'll definitely recommend watching on the big screen because it was great.
Cool, man.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that's the best way to watch it, Paul. And it's on just now, I'm sure. I think Odeon, Cineworld, Everyman. I think every year it gets shown these days, which is great. I seen it years ago in the big screen, maybe like 15 years ago or something like that. I watched it on, I can't really remember it, so I'm due a rewatch. But I think, coming back to what I said earlier about there's probably loads in our age range, Paul, that are at that stage where it's like it's a long-term relationship. Things have got a bit samey. It's a bit you're that used to watching it that you find it hard to actually sit and properly watch it. And there's no better way to go over that than by seeing it in the cinema, because it's like seeing it differently, and seeing it in its original glory, how it's supposed to be seen. So yeah, I would highly recommend catching it in the cinema as well.
Right, guys, the most important question of the night and our last question, last category before we get the hell out of here. Who is the MVP of this movie? I'm going to go first. Real boring answer. It's goddamn Bruce Willis, baby. I just think he makes this film what it is, why it's so special. Yet Hans is awesome as that villain. He's that piece of the cake that it absolutely needs. But to me, this is like the start of a career that went on till today. We still talk about Bruce Willis and stuff like that. I know he's quite ill at the moment, but the man has had a legendary career, and it all starts with Die Hard because he's so bloody charismatic in this film. He is Die Hard for me. John McTiernan plays a big part in it, but for me, this ain't what it is without Bruce Willis. Bruce Willis is the MVP of this movie for me. Paul, don't say Argyle.
You're right, Argyle. Argyle is the MVP of this film. Argyle, if Argyle wasn't in this movie, the terrorists would have escaped. He stops them getting away in that ambulance that somehow fits into the back of a truck. He is the MVP. No, he is, but I'm not going to go Bruce Willis because you've said it. Alan Rickman. Alan Rickman's fantastic in this film. Like, he's one of the best villains ever put to screen, in my opinion, in action films, in films. Anyway, whenever I think of like the top 5-10 villains in all films, Alan Rickman, Hans Gruber is up there. And every time I'm watching a newer action film, my head always goes, best be as good as Hans Gruber. Because he's sort of like he's the linchpin. Like, if you're not as good as Hans Gruber, then you're not a good villain. And like I said earlier, finding out just the last couple of weeks that it was his first big sort of major role. Like, you watching the film, you think he'd been doing it for years. Obviously, he'd done like Broadway and plays beforehand, but he's fantastic in it. And like I said, he's the yin to the John McClane's yang, and they just bounce off each other. So Bruce Willis, of course, is obviously the MVP, and he is Die Hard, but the film doesn't work without his yang and Alan Rickman as Hans Gruber as well.
That's fair. Andy?
Yeah, that's having a difficult position now, because if I'm trying to be different, I'm not getting many options, but it's 100% Bruce Willis. Like, he's the biggest component that if you take away, you don't have the same film. Do you know what I mean? It would be like a kind of beloved, forgotten action genre movie of the 80s if it was just any other actor. And to take away any ingredient from this film, it wouldn't possibly be as amazing a film. Wouldn't be maybe as culturally significant as it has been. But he's the biggest. He's the biggest ingredient, 100%. Like, because the reason it works, as we talked to earlier, is because he's the everyman. There's a breath of fresh air. His line delivery, he's likable. You have to like John McClane, or else it doesn't work, because you have to root for him the whole way through the film, and you do. So yeah, he's the MVP. Run closely by Hans Gruber, as we talked about earlier, because like you need that. You need him to bounce off of a worthy adversary, memorable adversary. And he kind of created that whole kind of like he created that trend of like every action film needed a European villain, because it was always like that. It was the Hans Gruber effect, and to speak about another John McTiernan film, the Last Action Hero, Charles Dance was cast in that as its villain. Charles Dance is great as well, a British actor, kind of known for playing villains. But apparently they offered that to Alan Rickman first, and he was like, "I'm not doing this unless you pay me an absolute fortune, because I'm getting a bit. I don't want to get typecast now."
Pretty classic.
They weren't willing to offer him the silly amount they wanted, I think. So it went to Charles Dance, and then Charles Dance wore on set as a joke throughout the whole filming a T-shirt that said, "I'm cheaper than Alan Rickman" on his T-shirt. So just a funny wee anecdote there about John McTiernan and the Hans Gruber effect. So he is amazing. So I think if I'm left just to try and play devil's advocate, I would say, like, boring one maybe, but like the writing team, the concept of Die Hard is massively important. Like, it's like you say, it became a template going forward. So the everyday, the underdog in one location against the odds helps. Do you know what I mean? Because you can stick John McClane you can stick Bruce Willis being John McClane in any film, which happened after that. If you're the Last Boy Scout and all that, not the same, because it's not the premise isn't as good, So there's an argument to say that it was the writing team behind it. The original concept is huge as well. But yeah, I'll stop talking now and let's give it to Bruce Willis.
If we're coming together as a group, I think we're all unanimously, I can't say that word, we're saying it's Bruce Willis. Are we all agreed?
You think?
Yeah,
the only reason why I'd push it towards Bruce Willis as well, because in the subsequent sequels that we got, so like the Die Hard 2 and Die Hard with a Vengeance, we had nowhere near as good as villains in them movies, but they were still total bangers because of our lead, our Bruce Willis-ness in them films. So anyway, guys, that has been our Die Hard review. Hope everyone has enjoyed that. Should we give a little sneak peek of what we're doing next? We want to reveal that one yet? Just to give you an FYI, we are recording this on the day of the new Superman trailer directed by James Gunn. I think we're all in agreement. Looks pretty good. So the next film on our re-review may be a Superman film. Not going to let you know which one it is, but I'll just tease it a little bit. Okay. But anyway, guys, this has been the Total ReTalkers. This has been Die Hard 1988. Andy, thank you for coming on, mate, and discussing this awesome film.
Anytime, mate. Enjoyed
Paul, it's been a pleasure.
Always a pleasure, my friend.
This has been Die Hard. Yippee-ki-yay, ReTalkers. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.